Well, welcome to another edition of the Vic State Cricket Podcast. I'm Adam White and I'm joined today by the injured Nic Maddinson for a feature chat. It's a shame that it's the injured Nic Maddinson because there's no one more exciting to watch play at full flight than Nic Maddinson. But he's had his knee injury. But the important thing is he's back. There's no crutches. I haven't seen any crutches. And he joins us now. Nic, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Whitey. And yeah, crutches got thrown in the bin the first day I was allowed off them and hobbled around a little bit. Went in to watch a Shield game straight after I got the word that I could get off them, and a few of the boys had a nice laugh at the way I was getting around. But yeah, it's getting into rehab now, and yeah, nice to see the boys doing well.
How long has it been? Have you got a calendar where you're crossing off the days since you did it?
Not really. I know exactly because it was New Year's Day, so it's
easy to
pretty
remember.
Easy one to remember. So I'm in week 9 at the moment. And yeah, I've tried not to think about it too much, just get the job done and come in and do my rehab. And I've been lucky enough to do a bit of that at home as well. So I'm not in at the office and in at the gym 5 or 6 days a week. I'm able to do a lot of that from my own gym I've got set up at home and my bike and stuff. So that's been mentally refreshing as well.
What's been the hardest part, the mental side of it or the physical side of it?
Physical side at the start. I think I had 6 weeks where I was on crutches. The first 3.5 to 4 weeks that I could barely get off the couch, and I think my wife found it pretty difficult looking after me and bossing around. She said I'm pretty particular with the way I like to do things at home, but yeah, that was the hardest part, not being able to help around the house and just do normal day-to-day stuff. But since then, I think the rehab can get a little bit tedious and boring sometimes, especially those early weeks. But yeah, I think it's just about turning up every day and getting the work done and knowing if you do it that you can progress quicker.
It's so rare for a cricketer to do an ACL, and then we have a situation where the Renegades captaining the women and the men do knees, which is quite extraordinary. But when you did it, did you know the seriousness of just trying to field a ball or throw a ball in that what had taken place, and what was ahead of you?
I knew straight away it was my ACL. Not that I've done
How
it
did you
before.
know that?
I just heard a loud pop when it happened, and the pain was it was quite sore at the start. But there were a few other things that went along with the ACL that I had an issue with in the knee. There, I did a pretty good job of it, I think. But yeah, I knew straight away. But I guess I didn't probably grasp what was to come until a little bit after, when you've had the surgery in your home and you kind of look at the advice from the surgeon and the physios and stuff around that. It's close to 9 months of not playing cricket, and then that side of it probably hit me a little bit after.
Because that's where it's hard for you, is because white ball, captain of the Renegades, you were captain of Victoria earlier this year and probably would have been captain post the BBL, county cricket, the list goes on. It has a massive impact on you, on your life, not just your cricket.
Yeah, I think just, I do, and I am someone that likes a bit of freedom when I am in here and like to train the way I want to train and do those sort of things. But I guess you still need a structure to be able to do that sometimes, and that's probably the part of it that you miss. You do get told, when to be somewhere and when to turn up and when your net session is and what gym work you've got to do and all that kind of stuff. And not having the structure at home, you feel a bit lost those first couple of weeks getting into some routine. And I think I was pretty lucky that we actually had a baby 2 weeks after my injury, so that kept me fairly busy around the house. And like I said before, just little milestones along the way, the knee that you tick off and look forward to. But yeah, it's tough when you're sitting there. I've probably lucky that I played close to 18 months straight with county cricket last year, straight after our season, and Australia A Tour before that. So I guess in some way the break's been kind of nice, but yeah, I would much rather be playing for sure.
I want to ask you about the addition to the family, and often we talk in sport about perspective and how things can happen in your life that give you perspective that helps you as an athlete. The timing in a lot of ways couldn't be better to be at home a lot more with the addition. Yeah,
I'm fairly lucky in that aspect. I think even already he's been around for, I think it's 7 weeks old he is, the Lorgie. So in those 7 weeks, I probably would have missed close to 3 weeks of that already, being away playing the Shield season. So I guess, I'm fairly lucky in terms of that I get to be there for some pretty important milestones along the way. Things change pretty quick when they're that young. So to be around for every day of that and pretty much 24 hours of the day, I feel like I'm quite lucky.
Have you had time, well, you have had time, but do you like to reflect on where you're at in your career, what you've achieved, what you'd like to achieve? Does that Does that sort of swirl around in your mind, or have you tried to stay away from that sort of thing and have a break from cricket?
Both. You try and give yourself a bit of a break, but I love cricket, and I know, whether it's playing for Victoria or playing club cricket or watching cricket, it's something that I do. It basically consumes my whole life. I do switch off and stuff like that away from cricket, but I just love it so much. So I think it has been tough not being able to play, and you do reflect a little bit. And I guess the disappointing thing for me is I didn't start the Shield season as well as I would have liked. Felt like I was batting really well when I came back from England and just didn't capitalise on some nice starts. And when you look back on that and you're injured, you feel like you could have had a better contribution. And with an India tour on at the moment and Ashes coming up, it was a pretty big summer for me at my age at the moment. It was one I was really looking to put my foot down and make a bit of a statement, but wasn't able to, and won't get the opportunity until next summer.
So in those reflections, have you come up with any plans, any targets, or any thoughts of changing anything, or what has gone through your mind?
I think it's just trying to make the most of every opportunity that I'm going to get. At 31 now, so things can happen fairly quickly. I guess when you look back and you see someone like Usman, who's got a great couple of years of Test cricket at the back end of his career, I still think that keeps a positive spin on things. I think back in when I was young and someone was 31, you almost look at them and think they're coming to the end of their career. But I feel like the best of my batting is still yet to come, and I'll be working really hard when I am able to start batting again and have a bit more of a concrete timeline on when I can return. So I guess it's probably not changing my game too much. I'll look to do a bit of work on the mental side of things, I think, but cricket's evolving a lot at the moment, so my game might change by the time I pick up the bat again in 6 to 9 months.
I want to ask you I was thinking about this driving in to chat to you today about your best cricket, because your best cricket is devastating. Have you had it yet, or do you reckon you can be better again, or is it? I was talking. I can't remember which one of your teammates I talked to about. You get to a level where it might have been Marcus Harris holding that level as opposed to feeling you can get to another level. Now, Marcus said, if I'm still not improving, then I don't think I'm doing a good job. How do you see that?
Yeah, I probably tend to agree. I think the best cricket I've played up till now was my first 2 seasons at Victoria, especially that that second full year where I played half the season before and finished really well, and then came into the team full time and played really well the second year, and that's probably as well as I've batted, I suppose, in terms of a tempo and where my mental state was at. And I think you're always trying to find that. But I think I'm a better batsman and a better player now than what I was then. So it's about finding that it. I guess no one really knows exactly what it is, but it's about finding it again and developing along the way and improving, because sometimes it might be the physical things that you're improving, different shots, your technique and things like that. Or it's the mental side of things. And I think you go through flows where one thing changes and the other evens out, and then you're always catching up something new. So, I still think I'm evolving, and I feel like I haven't nailed down a really consistent run of kind of 3 or 4 years yet of batting a certain way.
Do you know where you're best suited in the order? Because I think you've batted every position from 1 to 6.
I have.
Just in your time here at Victoria, and been successful in every one of those positions largely. Do you know where, or is it a good thing that you don't know because it gives you that that dynamism, that flexibility in the order?
I think it's a good thing that it can kind of fill a gap in any position. When I first came into the team was when Marcus Harris got picked for Australia. So I was opening, and that was something I did when I was 18 and first started playing Shield cricket. So I absolutely love opening the batting. But for the way I like to play, and I think our team, I'm probably best suited in the middle order. I think that's probably where I'd like to be going forward. Got a lot of developing younger players here as well. So I feel like, in between myself, Pete Hanscom, Shorty at the moment, who's batting really well, obviously Campbell Kellaway in the middle order, that's probably where I can have the most impact.
Do you think back as to how it is that you were so successful, or have been so successful coming to Victoria? Because we'll get to the journey a little bit shortly, but just the impact you've had on Victorian cricket in such a short period of time, coming down with no promises, and the volume of runs that you've scored. Do you sit back and go, how did this happen? Or is it more I knew this was going to happen, I just needed a fresh start or an opportunity or someone to believe in me? Yeah,
probably that more than anything. I think I always knew it was going to happen, and I felt like regardless of where I played that season, I felt like I was at that stage in my career where I could really make an impact. And yeah, it just happened to be that, there were a few things along the way, a bit of character building and, having to move interstate and stuff like that and try again. But I think that just played a role in that development as well. I don't think it was one reason or the other, but I just felt like at the time, the year before finishing that season with New South Wales, I felt like I was making some really good progress in my batting and I just hadn't clicked with a big score yet. And then that winter, I was lucky enough to go and play some T20 cricket for Surrey, and Michael Divenuto was the coach. So spent quite a bit of that time talking to him about 4-day batting and being a left-hander at the top of the order. He was someone that I resonated quite easily with. And I always felt like coming to Victoria, I was confident that when I got the opportunity in 4-day cricket that I was going to do well.
What did he give any secret, or can you share any secrets? Because left-hander, top of the order, dynamic batsman, so many first-class runs, and obviously part of the Australian setup now.
Yeah.
Was there any one or two things that he shared with you?
The one thing that probably impacted me the most was just being ready, whether it was the first ball of the day or the 100th ball you face. Just be ready that could be a ball to score. So have that attitude that if I'm open the batting first ball of the game, if it's a half volley, be ready and have the mindset that you're going to drive it and score off it. Or if they drop one in on my hip first ball, be ready to hit it for 6, rather than kind of try and ease your way into an innings, because you mightn't get another one of those for a while. And I think that attitude, but also balance out with the fact that if you're out there in a tough situation, they bowl 100 dot balls to you, you've got to be able to survive that and find a way to get through it. And that was probably the biggest thing that I took into my game.
Because I must confess, I thought it was more coming down the belief that Andrew McDonald had in you and in your teammates that, you could be the man for us. But often athletes talk about chips on shoulders or points to prove that can really drive them, whether that's Tom Brady or whether it's cricketers that change states. Yeah. How much did that play a part in your resurgence as a cricketer?
I think Ron probably definitely had a big impact. Probably just the encouragement to play the way I wanted to play. I'd played against him a little bit when I was younger, but hadn't had a lot of crossover, so he hadn't really seen me up close in the way I batted. And the first thing he said to me was, if you caught it first slip or mid-off, it's the same thing. So just find a way you're still out, so find a way to score the runs while you're in there, and we don't care how that looks, just get it done your way. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence. But there's also part of it where, I think I didn't feel like I had that chip on my shoulder, I had anything to prove until we played New South Wales again, and I was like, I really want to do well. And I don't think I scored many runs the first time against them, but I've had some success since. And I think part of that, you need a little bit of that extra motivation at times.
Because I don't think there is another player like you in Australian first-class cricket, and I think that's wonderful. I love the fact that you're different to so many other players with the way you play, and you're compelling to watch. But it is interesting that you need people still to be able to reassure you that that's okay to play differently.
Yeah, you definitely do. And for me now, I think that I guess the confirmation is watching the way England are playing at the moment in Test cricket, and that's kind of the way I've played a lot of my career, is being quite aggressive and looking to take the game on. So when I watch them play, it gives me a bit of confidence knowing that when I come back, that if I'm obviously, you've got to have the skill and the technique to survive when it's not free flowing and stuff like that, but also have the confidence to be able to take the game on regardless of the conditions and play that way. Because I think that is when I'm playing at my best as well. There's definitely a balance there, but when I am looking to score and take the game on is when I feel like I've got the biggest impact on not just the team but the whole game.
So from a mindset point of view, I'm interested in you sharing about what it's like to go out to bat when you've got that attitude or that I'm trying to think of the right word, that preparation. Because I'm sure doubts can come into the mind as well. Am I doing it the right way? Is it reckless, or is it the way I play?
Yeah.
All those sorts of things. The coaches need to be on board what you're trying to do as well, your teammates. Can you talk a bit about that? Because it can't just be go out there and just play with freedom.
Yeah, I don't know, I feel like I'd be a tough person to bat behind, so you might have to interview some of the folks that bat behind me as well, because I think they're pretty nervous at times. But to me, I don't really get too nervous when I'm batting, and I think the key for me is I'm going out there expecting them to bowl the perfect ball every time, and I'm trying to cover the ball that I feel like can dismiss me, and the biggest threat for that bowler in those conditions. And anything apart from that, I'm looking to score off, and that's kind of the way I've approached it. I had the same approach when I had that successful run a couple of years ago, and that's still the same approach now. So Obviously, it's little bits and pieces where you tinker around in your technique or a style of play here and there, depending on the game situation and conditions. But most of the time, I'm preparing for the ball that will get me out the most, and anything off that, I feel like I can score.
Was that the same approach when you were at New South Wales? Because you had this meteoric rise, you scored a century, very early in your career, very young compared to most other players. Yeah. Played for Australia again at quite a young age. Was it the same approach, or have you tinkered it as you've gone along?
Probably tinkered it the last 4 or 5 years since probably, like I said, just before coming to Victoria that year. Even though I didn't score the runs, I felt like I had a fairly similar approach. Before that, I probably had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. You go through so many ups and downs that you're trying to find a way, and I think that's the thing with batting. You're never really satisfied, or you never find a method that works until you've had a lot of failures doing it in many different circumstances or trying so many different things. And I guess the tough thing, when I came in, I was open to batting and I felt like I wasn't up to the level. And I think my strike rate my first year was about 35 to 40, and I was, open to batting and grinding it out there. But I was still naturally a free-flowing player. I just found it going up a step was quite difficult. And I think the more comfortable I became is to, still look to take the game on and score, which is kind of, it takes a while to have that confidence, but it's where I'm at the moment. And like I said, probably that game plan was probably 4 or 5 years ago where I thought that was the best way to go about things.
Playing for Australia, take us through that experience. You said you had this meteoric rise, and that there you are playing for Australia. When you look back on it now, what was it like?
Pretty daunting, especially that first game. I hadn't had, it's not an excuse or anything, but I hadn't felt like I had a lot of cricket leading up to that game. Played really well in the one-day comp, missed a Shield game through concussion, played one game and then was selected. And I think I kind of just got lucky with the timing of things, really, to be honest. I scored a really good 100 in the Shield game at the SCG. The test team went through a bit of a rebuild, and they had a pretty bad loss down in Hobart, and the team was looking to change and brought myself, Hanscom and Renshaw in to try and take things in a different direction. It didn't work out for me, but at the time I probably wasn't ready. You always feel like you are, but until you experience that and come back to Shield cricket and have to work on a few things, but it was a bit of a whirlwind. It went pretty quick, the 3 weeks I was there. So, I think I got told I wasn't playing after Boxing Day. I was going to miss the Sydney test and played a BBL game the next night, and kind of moves on fairly quickly.
Often cricketers talk about not being ready when they play for Australia, and we hear many, many stories of that, because I think players get better the more they go along. But it's just when the opportunity comes, you've got to take it. You can't say, "Oh no, I'm not ready for it."
Yeah.
So I'm just interested in how you reflect back on it now, and are you frustrated that you didn't get or haven't got an opportunity? I won't say past tense, but you haven't got that next opportunity again when you're a better player, or is it just, no, I played for Australia and everyone dreams of playing for Australia?
Yeah, good question. I think definitely part of that. Yeah, satisfied that you've played, and it was my dream as a kid was to play, and I think I was 24, maybe 25 when I played. So it's fairly early on in my career. I think I've probably played as much cricket now since then as what I had leading up to it. So I feel like I've learned a lot since then, and I guess having a taste of it, you're never going to be satisfied until you can go back and prove to yourself that you can score runs at that level. And I feel like a lot of the time it is timing, and I got lucky that time with timing, but I still felt like I had the game to probably not be consistent at that level, but I could have succeeded in some way in some games. And the one that really frustrates me is I had a good opportunity the Boxing Day test. We were batting, the wicket was really nice for batting, and our goal was just to post a pretty big score, I think, in the first innings, and got myself to 20-odd, faced quite a lot of balls, maybe 70 balls, and played a pretty average shot to get out when I didn't really need to. And that was the frustrating one. And Mitch Starc came in after me and smacked 80, and there's 100 gone like that. That's how I saw it. But obviously since then the opportunity hasn't come up again. But I feel like I know enough about my own game now that I wouldn't, if I was in the same situation again, whether I'd had 2 to 3 years runs under my belt or just a couple of months, I'd feel a lot more prepared for it.
So is that regret, or is that just the circumstances at the time? Do you look back and go, gee, I wish I had that time again, or that's cricket, that's
I've definitely
life?
thought that, but yeah, it is cricket and it's life. And I'd take back nearly every dismissal I've had this year in Shield cricket as well. Like, it's just the way it is being a batter. At the time you feel like it's a good option, then you can look back and when the result's already there, and hindsight's great. You can look back and think, oh, if I just, knocked it down to long on and took a single rather than trying to open up the offside, or, if I just let that one go or something. There's always a reason, and I guess you always can find the negative in it and want to go back. And I think that's every innings I've ever played, I've had that thought, so it's no different.
So unfinished business. We've talked to Pete Hanscom on this podcast at the start of the summer about this whole thing of unfinished business, and he was as determined as ever to get back and have another crack at it. And obviously he's playing for Australia at the moment. Does that drive you? You talked before about you got the opportunity at the same time as Pete did. He's come back, I think, a better player for the second time round. How do you see that? And is he an inspiration to you?
Yeah, even someone like Marcus Harris, who's been in and out of the team and had to fight really hard to, be in a lot of squads recently, and was in the test squad last year after doing a lot of hard yards in county cricket and scoring hundreds for Victoria every season since. So I guess part of it is unfinished business. It's more that I just want to prove to myself that I could do it and have some success at that level. And the funny thing about cricket is my view, I don't need to play for Australia again to feel like I've had a good career. I'm quite not satisfied, but I am happy with what I've done in cricket so far, and having an impact on Victoria, having an impact on the games I play, and also the younger players in our squad. And I feel like that's success to me, is being able to impact everyone else as much as when I looked at the older players that I grew up playing with. It's like they had a huge impact on me, so I'd like to do the same. And I think for me to have a successful career, that's basically all I'd like to achieve. And love to play Test cricket again. To obviously would like some success at that level to know that I could do it. But either way, I feel like I've had a good career, and I don't think I'll ever regret it if I never got the chance again.
As you move through a career, it doesn't matter whether it's cricket or in business or whatever, you kind of evolve as a person. You go, it's all about you, it's all about what I can do, and then it becomes a lot about making other people better and developing other people. But that actually makes you a better athlete or a better person in business when you have that attitude, when you sort of see it a bit broader. Do you see that a little bit with you at Victoria now?
Definitely helps you relax a bit more, I think. Yeah. When you can look around and know you can have an impact in another area, I think that makes you relax as a player. You understand the struggles that people might be going through, and because a lot of the time you've had it yourself and going to have it again. So you're probably prepared that you can get over it a little bit quicker than what you used to. So if you can help someone else do that as well, Campbell Kellaway's come in this year and done really well, but if you can help him, might get out of a lean patch 1 or 2 innings quicker than what you would naturally, or just develop a slightly quicker rate than what I did or what other players did. I think that's a big thing. And when you think about that, it makes you, to me, it helps me relax for sure. And I think you can have a huge impact on other people. And once you realise that your game, although it's important, you also understand that you're going to have failure as well. And if other people can see you work through that and develop, that's a great way of setting an example as well.
Because I think, you've got so much to offer in that leadership space because of the experiences you've had, the highs and the lows. You yourself have had mental health challenges along the way. But, is that helpful that you've had the highs and lows that sort of almost evens itself out as you get to the age you're getting to now?
I think so. It's like life as well, isn't it? It's never perfect, and it's never like you can be in a great run of scores playing cricket and you're still going to miss out more often than not. That's the funny thing. So, Virat Kohli's one of the best in the world, and might score 100 once every 4 or 5 matches. Obviously, they had a bit of a lean run at the moment, but the best players in the world are failing more often than not. So I think when you have the perspective and going through other things in life and off the field, and also having challenges within cricket itself, I think you just realise that.
How hard is it to be a professional cricketer? You're going through a unique situation at the moment where you've got to be on the sidelines for a period of time when it's not your choice.
Yeah.
But just that whole thing of, performance with cricket, batting particularly, so much of it's statistics and about performance and putting your numbers up against someone else's, going out, the fear of failure. Aaron Finch talked about that last week, the fear of failure.
Yeah.
What's that like for you to deal with?
I think what I find the hardest is probably, there's always someone's opinion attached to it as well. So you might play what you think's a great innings, and the way you get out is the one that gets looked at more so than the success that you've had during that innings. And cricket's a funny game where it's almost like if you don't make 100 or you don't make 50 plus in a game, you haven't done a good enough job, and you always kind of focus on the negative quite a lot as a batsman. Where, yeah, I guess I try to go the other way and look at the impact on the game from that aspect. And yeah, I don't know. It is tough when you're sitting on the sideline and you're not playing. You wish you could go back and change a few things through certain innings and whatever. But everyone's going to have the challenges, and I think if you're confident in what you're doing, you can bounce back quickly.
What's the current setup like with you, with Chris Rogers and, different coach to Andrew McDonald? You've got Ben Rohrer. There has been change through Victorian setup for a while. Do you have to sort of reintroduce yourself to a new lot of coaches and so say, well, this is how I'd like to play? Is that okay? Or have they been really good in supporting you and saying, Nick, just keep doing what you've been doing for Victoria because it's worked?
Yeah, I always think there's a discussion there. Definitely when Bucky took over.
Stamp sort of
thing. When Bucky took over, I think I love cricket and he loves talking about cricket, so we'd catch up quite a lot and walk and just chat about batting. And I think the good thing was at the stage where I was at in my career, felt like I could disagree or say no, and it was constructive rather than just kind of, it wasn't a one-way street, me telling him what I wanted to do or him telling me what to do. We could kind of work together, and I think that's been really positive. And Ben Rohrer, I played with Benny Rohrer. Like he was kind of 29, 30 when I debuted at Shield level, and he had a huge influence on my career. So having him here now as a coach is just a good person to have around, I guess. And he's seen me bat a lot, and he's seen a lot of the challenges that I've had as a batter. So having him around, it's definitely changed over the past few years with new coaches coming in. And I think where I'm at now, I feel like regardless of the coaching staff or the setup, my game's going to be fairly similar. And obviously you take advice from the coaches and you work with them, but a lot of that, 90% of it, 95% of it, I feel pretty settled in.
Do you prefer white ball cricket or red ball cricket?
Red ball, yeah.
What are you better at?
I don't know. It changes a lot. I think probably a couple of years ago I would have said white ball cricket, and my red ball really struggled. But since coming here, I've struggled in white ball cricket and done really well in red ball. And I think, I don't know, if one had to go and I could only play one, I'd play 4-day cricket. Like I love playing it. At times that might surprise some people the way I bat sometimes in 4-day cricket, but I think it's the best style of game and the one I feel like I can have the most impact on. And I think, I really love playing. And when I look at now, I'm 31, I still feel like I've got a lot of time left. And whether that's playing 4-day cricket, there's still a lot of opportunity there.
The white ball cricket, the way you play it confounds me because you can be unbelievable. And it hasn't quite worked out over the last few years for whatever reason. Have you worked it out as to why?
Nah, no idea. I guess I have
too hard, or
I have a bit of an idea. Like, I think when I had success and then you go through a bit of a lean patch doing the same thing, you try and change something. So when I was doing really well in white ball cricket, I was being ultra aggressive at the start of my innings, getting through that, and then basically just playing the percentages after that. And batting quite smart. And then, I was batting at the top of the order. I come to Victoria, I ended up batting 5 and 6 a lot of the time. When I opened or batted at the top, I missed a couple of opportunities, end up back in the middle order. And I guess I just found it hard to find a balance in how I wanted to play. And when you get the opportunity and you're not 100% confident in how you want to play, that can definitely affect it. But I feel like I've been in a pretty good place, and I've experienced enough now to bat anywhere in the order and feel comfortable in that position and what to do. It's just I haven't had the runs that I would like.
As a watcher of T20 cricket, it feels like you can go on bad luck runs and you can go on good luck runs where there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it. But it feels that you're almost emblematic of that.
Oh, I don't know if it's luck sometimes or poor batting a lot of the time.
How did that happen? It's happened to me again. It seems to follow you and other cricketers as well.
I don't know. It's interesting to hear that because I don't feel like I've ever had that approach. I think when you start thinking like that, sometimes you can go down a pretty dark hole quickly. But a lot of the time it's you're going to have in white ball cricket it's higher risk, isn't it? So you're going to have a lot of failure along the way as well. But I think it's finding a balance in both formats where you can, work out the different stages of the game when you can be really positive and when you need to take a step back. And that's probably just the one part I haven't balanced as well as what I would have liked. And probably similar this year, to be honest, in red ball cricket, played quite aggressive at times and got out when I probably could have stepped back a gear. And that's probably been, like I said, that's white ball cricket for me of late. It's been a little bit similar.
The move from green to red and leading the team, I think it was either your first or second game this year. You batted really well. I thought this is the Nic Maddinson we want, and then the knee injury happens. Was that not so much doubly bad, if that's even a term, but more frustrating that you changed clubs, leadership, and then all of a sudden you can't lead the team? And because the team was quite successful this year.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest thing, to be honest. I felt like last year we really struggled, and this year there was a lot of work went into the off-season about planning, recruiting players. I had a really good chat to the guys before the tournament started about a style we wanted to play. And I felt like we had a really well-rounded squad that we could compete going into finals. And I guess the hardest part for me after I got injured was that you couldn't be involved in that anymore. The team's on the road travelling. I'm at home after surgery watching on TV, and you just can't have the same involvement as you would have liked. And not so much that I wasn't playing, but it's just being around the squad and, I think you see everything behind the scenes that goes into it as well. The players at training, the culture around the change room and all that kind of stuff. So when you're not there experiencing that, but you can see the success on the field, you kind of miss that aspect of it just as much.
This is a tough question, but the difference between green and red, what is the difference, even culturally or from a team perspective? Because fundamentally they're two Victorian teams,
yeah,
but it does feel that they're very different.
Yeah.
Even though half the team you're playing with each other all year in navy blue.
Yeah. I felt like when I went to the Stars, a lot of it was there were a lot of great mates in that team, and it was a bit of an older squad at the time. Where when I looked at the Renegades team when I was deciding to make the move or not, it was quite a young list. One that has evolved in the last 2 seasons since I've been there, but the core of it was quite a young group that had, I guess, a bit of a vision for not just the next season, but 3 to 5 years down the track of having some of the best players in the competition in our side. It just needed the exposure and a bit of experience around them, and that was the reason I went. To be honest, it was I felt like I could have a bit more of an impact, and wanted to be involved in kind of the evolution of the Renegades. And like I said, that was the frustrating part about getting injured, that you get so close to finals and you're sitting there watching, but. That was kind of the difference for me. It was a really young group of Victorian cricketers, and looking to develop and turn into a team that people want to come and play for. That people will be sad when it's over, and the Big Bash is over, and I want people to think fondly of the Renegades, and that was what I felt like we could develop when I was there.
Do you reckon you get back in time for this season? Is that a bit of a target, or is it October, first Saturday in October, and be playing for St Kilda?
Yeah, I'm looking a bit early in the Big Bash, so I'm hoping that I'll get back in September sometime. Ideally, I think kind of 9 months is around the mark for an ACL, if all goes to plan, and at the moment it feels like it's tracking quite well, so it's still a long way away. But the plan is hopefully to be involved in the start of next season, and at worst case I'm quite certain I'll be ready to go by the time Big Bash rolls around again.
How much of it trying to get back early is because of how well the young, I keep calling it the young Victorian team is playing at the moment? It's 4 wins on the bounce. Again, to go and travel to Lavington and on a really tough wicket and win so comprehensively away from home. How much of it, I want to be part of this. I want to get back and share the successes that the team's having at the moment. Yeah,
you definitely miss that aspect of it. And I think going into just before the Christmas break, we hadn't really had the success that we would have liked, and had a really great win here against New South Wales. And I think after that, you've seen the way the team's played. It's been great to watch. A bit of like you said, a younger team, but they're guys that have been around the squad for a few years as well. And you've got Mitch Perry leading the attack at the moment, who was dropped just before Christmas. So to see how he's bounced back, and one of the best bowlers in the comp probably since Christmas, is fantastic to watch. And you do really want to be a part of that, especially coming up with a pretty good opportunity with a win against WA or some good points secured that we might qualify for another Shield final. And to do that 2 years in a row, I think is pretty special, and you want to be involved with that as much as you can. Did you see this happening? You made a good point. You did play in the Shield final last year, but this is a different feel to the team. If you guys are over in India at the moment, you've been injured as well. So it is a bit different. But do you see the younger, say the under 24s emerging as quickly as they have? You'd like to say yeah, but you don't really know, I guess, because cricket is a funny game that you feel like they can have all the preparation in the world, and until you're actually out there and have to do it, things can change fairly quickly. But the one for me who's probably played a huge role is Fergus O'Neill as well. So to see how quickly he's developed from the first Shield game he played to now opening the bowling and being one of the leaders of the bowling group is fantastic to see. And you want to see that happen when you see the team. You think, when you're behind the scenes and you're at training all the time and you're facing the guys week in, week out, you actually know the skill level, you know what they can bring to the table. So you have the confidence. It's probably the people who aren't around as much that look in and think, oh, the team's a bit young. They're missing, 4 or 5 players. They might struggle for the second half of the year, but the confidence within the group has always been there. That the guys coming in were definitely up to the standard and could do a good job.
What about Will's captaincy, his leadership? Does that surprise you?
In what way?
Well, probably just how well he's done.
Yeah.
And how well he's sort of galvanised the group.
Yeah, he is. I think just his personality, he does lead with his actions and stuff off the field as well. So I think the boys do look up to him as a leader within the group anyway, without a title attached to his name. So I think when he got the opportunity to have, Travis Dean, who's captained before, Marcus Harris, a senior player who captained Australia during the winter, John Holland, who's been around for forever, to have, I guess, the senior guys around as a sounding board would have helped him a lot. But in terms of our group, everyone looks at him as a leader anyway, regardless of being on probably the younger end of the squad.
What do you do away from cricket? Because you've got the chance to do that at the moment, apart from being a dad. What do you like to do to get away from it all?
Well, at the moment, I'm trying to figure that out because a few things I like to do, I can't do. So, I love, in terms of another sport and to get away from things, I love riding my bike, and that was a way for me, I guess, from the mental side of things, as much as anything, was to get out on the road and ride my bike as often as I could, and that's been taken away as well. And I think like I said, I'm so lucky to be at home at the moment with August, who's 7 weeks old, to be there for the critical moments in the early days of his life. So that does take up a fair bit of your day and everything that comes with having a newborn baby. But I think the next couple of months are where I probably need to put a bit of work into that. Got a few things that I'd like to do. But yeah, I think it's just not focusing on cricket too much when you're away from it is probably a key for me. And like I said, I do love watching, but sometimes you've got to switch off and just get away from cricket and just live your life as you normally would and just enjoy the little things, whether it's going for a walk. I wasn't able to walk outside until a couple of weeks ago. So just little milestones like that, I think that you take for granted a little bit are things that I'm finding really important at the moment.
So will you go to the UK at all in a coaching capacity or anything like that? Or is it like you stay right away because it's sort of like you want to do it and you can't do it?
Probably stay right away, yeah. If there's an opportunity there to do something, I'd definitely have a look at it. But, I loved my winter in England last year, and I would have gone back in a heartbeat to be involved in cricket in the English summer again. So at the moment, I think, like I said, I was lucky to play 18 months straight. So to have a break now at the end of back half of my career, I guess, it's something that I think can mentally refresh you. It's going to be 9 to 12 months at home, have different aspect and work on a few things outside of the game, so that when I do, hopefully in the next, I can get another at least 5 years out of myself playing 4-day cricket and stuff like that. But you have a bit more of a plan on what you want to do when you finish, and I guess that's probably important for me now over the winter when I do have the time.
It's easy for me to say this, but I kind of feel like this could actually lengthen your career and make you a better cricketer to have this sort of pause at the moment. I don't know, just feel that.
Yeah, it is funny because Callum Ferguson actually said that. I think he did his ACL around a similar age and said it felt like he just got an extra few years out of his cricket just because he had a bit of a break, had the time away from the game, and was able to do the rehab, come back. And I think he might have done his ACL twice even in his career, but said it felt like he just gave him an extra bit of a push at the end of his career to get as much out as he could. And I think it is like, you don't want to be injured, but sometimes you do need a break. And when you're playing a lot, and at my age, you don't really want to have a break. A lot of the time you want to keep playing and make the most of every chance you get. But having a break like this, a forced time away from the game is definitely probably, I think, a positive.
Last question, and I've asked most of the former players this question. I'm going to ask you as well because of your story. What does Victorian cricket mean to you?
I would like that question before I came in. Would have been nice. What it means to me.
When you look back on your career and think of where your career was, losing your contract at New South Wales.
Yeah.
I know it's a story well told, but coming down to St Kilda with no real promises apart from the stars, to then be in a situation where you're knocking on the door again of playing for Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably leading you in a little bit.
Yeah,
But
no,
what do you when you think back? Of what,
yeah. Yeah, it's a huge part of my life, and obviously I feel like I owe a lot of people at Victoria for encouraging me to make the move. I think Andrew Lynch, Graffy, and Andrew McDonald at the time were the ones I spoke to about coming down and had those conversations. If it wasn't for their encouragement to come down, I think after my first season, I did send Andrew McDonald a message and just said, thanks for the encouragement and how much impacted my career, because there was, you don't think about it until it happens, but there's definitely times where I thought being uncontracted in the winter, and I was didn't really have anywhere to train. I couldn't really do anything by myself. So you definitely question whether you'll actually want to make the move and actually want to put that effort in again to try and make it. And there were times when I didn't really think I wanted to, but to have that encouragement, knowing that there's still, I was probably halfway through my career and there was still a fair bit of it to go, and that Victoria saw something in me where I can contribute to their environment and their team. I owe a lot to them for making me believe that opportunity was there. And Pete Hanscom as well. I remember chatting to him, and he played a huge role in me making a decision to come down, because in the end it would have been probably an easy decision to stay in Sydney and be with friends and family and be a bit closer to home and play club cricket and try and work your way back in. But I think I'll look back one day and be so thankful I already am thankful, but be really grateful for the opportunity that Victoria gave me, because it's been a huge part of my life. I love living in Melbourne. I think I'd probably stay here as well. Once cricket's done, I do really like it here. Made some great relationships within the game, and being able to see some younger players come through and how much I can actually impact them has really given me perspective on a few things in my career.
Did you think you were done? Or did you think that you could fight back, it was just a matter of time? Or did you think, because there wasn't a lot of love there from New South Wales, but you're just saying before, where to train, where I was going to play. Was there a few dark moments where you thought, geez, this might be it?
Yeah. It's definitely times, like, I don't think I wanted to believe it, and I don't think I ever did, but there are times when I was picked in the Australian T20 team that winter, and I was without a contract, and I had to sneak into the SCG at night at like 7 p.m. with a mate of mine, Angus Robson, whose dad, Jim, ran the indoor centre, and he'd throw balls and feed balls to me in the indoor centre and hit catches and stuff like that. So that was my training to try and get ready for a winter of cricket. And there were times when you're doing that and you're like, is it actually going to be successful? And if I didn't have the opportunity to come to Victoria, that would have been what the rest of that year probably would have looked like as well. And there are times where you do consider if you want to actually put yourself through it, and if you want to keep developing your career that way and that's a path, or do you look elsewhere and try and find something else to do? And there's been so many players, I guess, get to that time in their career, and I think it would probably save me is I didn't have anything else to do, Whitey. That was it. I left school and played cricket within 6 months after for New South Wales. So wasn't until after that where you look back and you're like, that was stupid. I ever thought of not playing again. But yeah, at the time you think, is it all going to be worth it? And if I put all this effort in, and I guess the fear of failure you mentioned before, I think that's probably the main thing. You're like, well, what happens if I put all the effort in and I don't get any rewards for it, and compete her out that way, or at least you feel like you got a decision in the other aspect of it. But I'm really glad that it worked out the way it did, and I got an opportunity down here. Thank
you for coming and having a chat. I know it's tough, particularly as I said, being injured and all that sort of thing, but you're such an intriguing cricketer the way you play, and I mean that in the best possible way. I love watching you play, and I know a lot of Victorian cricket fans love watching you play because you do it your way, and it doesn't have to be the conventional way. And your honesty and so forth today just exemplifies what a great person you are and what a great cricketer you are here in Victoria. And I think we're lucky to have you.
Thanks, Whitey.
And good luck with the recovery. Get back for that first Saturday in October.
Yeah, hope so.
Nic Maddinson joining us on the Vic State Cricket Podcast, one of my favourite players. It's great to have him have an extended chat with us today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll do it all again next week.